Hey there, super friends. This is Joey with Last Point Gaming. Today is Tuesday, February 6th, 2018. If you want to connect with us on social media, you can subscribe to our Last Point Gaming YouTube channel. You can friend up our Last Point Gaming Facebook account. You can follow us on Twitter at Last Point Gaming. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Stranger Sparrow. Or you can always reach out directly with an email to lastpointgaming@gmail.com. This has been a while, like almost a week. My bad. Unfortunately, in that time, there were some things that were missed. I am going to go over my normal weekend gaming report and everything, but I'm actually going to open with Corey McDuffie. I didn't know the guy, of course, never even met him. I didn't even really know of him. I really went back and forth whether I was going to say anything about this because I don't want to seem like I'm playing it oh, I'm so sad. Because this player that I've been following for ever, and I've never mentioned him before. I mean, I'm almost positive I've seen him on coverage before. The name definitely sounds familiar, but he's not really somebody I had a concept of before it was announced at the end of last week that, unfortunately, he passed away. I've seen a lot of outpouring from the community that really makes me wish I had known the guy. Even just have gotten to meet him at some point. It really seems like he brightened everybody's life that he touched, and he touched a lot of lives. But I felt like not talking about it at all really, to me, seemed to portray that, I just didn't care. And, I mean, I do. Again, I definitely did not know him personally at all. And, like I said, I'd probably seen him on coverage from time to time, but he wasn't one of those players that I followed real close, that I watched for their rounds. Oh man, now I'm stuck on this ramp. But it's sad when anybody passes away, let alone somebody. He was young. He was only 25. And I guess the official word is that he died in a car accident. And, generally I let Jeremy to his own devices, and I don't really say much about what he's been saying lately. There are times where I felt that the community has kind of reacted to things that he said. I don't know. I've defended him before. In this particular instance, no. Please don't go around trying to be internet detectives and proving a case for something that probably isn't even there. Jeremy had tweeted out that something along the lines of it being odd that they're calling it a car accident when it's obviously a suicide case. Look, fine, rabble-rouse on people, talk smack on other players, whatever, but this guy was well-loved by many in the community, and more than that, he was somebody's son. May have been somebody's brother. Definitely a friend to a lot of people. Let them grieve in peace. Don't go chasing conspiracy theories that ultimately really don't matter. I've lost people to cancer. I've lost people to, they lose the war and take their own life. I've lost people to kind of taking their own life in a different direction in the form of drug overdose. And what I can tell you from all that is the loss is still loss. The pain is pain. So I'm not saying that things like mental health issues and suicide prevention don't matter. I'm not saying that drug addiction isn't a problem that matters. I'm saying in this particular case, just leave it the fuck alone. The official story is that he lost his life in a car accident, and just let it at that. Even if there would be more to it, that's for his family to decide how much they want public. So for those of you that knew him and, called him your friend, or for his family, I'm truly sorry for your loss. Fuck. If one person in the world remembers me as fondly as I have seen all these members of the community, talk about how fondly they remember this guy, I'll consider my life well lived. It seems like he was adored by many. I will attach to the link to this cast, on the YouTube and on both the Twitters, a link to a GoFundMe to kind of help support his family. If you're not aware, funerals are incredibly expensive. Not to mention if there was anybody that was dependent on him financially. Again, I don't really know much about the guy, so there's a GoFundMe set up to help his family during their time of grief. And I'll link out to that for anybody that wants to throw in whatever they can. It's a shame to see one of the prominent members of the community go away. And it's even more of a shame being that he was so young. So, if anything to take away from this, I guess, make sure you tell the people that you love and care about that you love and care about them. Because you never know when one of you is just not going to be here anymore. You never know when it's going to be too late. And as somebody that carries around one of those regrets that no amount of assurances from myself or anybody else that, oh no, they knew and words weren't needed and all that can assuage, just make sure you say it. Because you will regret it long, long after the fact if you don't. So, moving right along, I guess. I wish I had more to say about him. I wish I had more to say about this whole thing, other than don't be a dickhead and realize that people are grieving. To different extents, definitely, but there are a lot of people grieving out there. So don't pry where you're not wanted. But that is really where I'm at on that one. Don't go internet sleuthing. Don't let the guy rest in peace. So, weekend gaming report. I took Boo to FNM with me on Friday because I don't turn here. What am I doing? Because husband was sick, and it was actually just easier on him for me to get Boo out of the house and leave him with Bird. Being that Bird is a much calmer person and, kind of happy to entertain herself. And Boo went 0-4, I went 1-3 again. This pirate deck is not great. You can definitely see the Hand of Terran on it. I feel like it has too many lands, which for MTGO it may not. Because unfortunately, whenever you're dealing with a computer program like that, shuffling algorithms vary in effectiveness. And, yes, you can use the math.random method to generate random list order. Unfortunately, programming and math are all based off of patterns, so you can only get so random. So it does seem like on MTGO you want to pad a little heavier on lands than you usually would, because the draw frequency of land seems to be a bit high. Though, on the other hand, I did have games where I was completely screwed on land, so I don't know. However you cut it, this deck's just not working out, so I really gotta figure out something else to build. Or maybe not, I don't know. It's still fun to play, so even when I'm losing, it's still fun. Boo and I also went to Standard Showdown on Sunday, and despite the fact that it was snowing like crazy, we actually had enough to fire, which was exciting and somewhat frightening, because I, of course, had no clue what prize support payout was supposed to be like or anything else, because generally the showdowns haven't been firing, so I didn't think to ask any of that, knowing full well that Boss 2 wouldn't be in the store. So that was exciting. Boo and I both went 2-1 at Showdown, so that was super exciting. Like, she legitimately wasn't people softballing her or anything like that. She just got there. So, you know, congrats to her on that one. I also did my X-Mage League matches. Man, it has been a while since I talked to y'all. So I tried to record the Legacy match, but we kept having disconnection issues. And I thought perhaps the problem was that Liaria couldn't handle running X-Mage and OBS at the same time, and I was running into some kind of system resource clash, which was somehow causing a disconnect. I don't know. I convinced myself that this stuff happens. More and more I'm thinking that's not the case, because server connection has still been sketchy. Game 1 with Dredge. Now, it wasn't Manaless Dredge. I could not find a Manaless Dredge list, so I went with, like, regular Legacy Dredge. Game 1 was definitely bad. Definitely a lot of, what the fuck is going on here? How do I get this shit in my graveyard? Game 2, I almost took it. I got real close. In fact, if my sideboarded Iona had been in my graveyard, I would have won that game. Because I had plenty of creatures to flashback. Oh god, what the... Dread Return. That's the card. And if I could have flashback Iona and named Red, she was tapped out, and I would have been able to stop her from hitting me with the lightning bolt that killed me the turn before I was going to swing in and kill her. Icarid and Bridge from Below, great little non-bow there. So Icarid is like 3 and a black to cast, I think. Something like that. He's a 3/1 with haste. The reason I really don't care about what his actual mana cost is because that's not how you get him on the battlefield. Bridge from Below, if you're not aware, is a card that does absolutely nothing on the battlefield. It has no text on the card that has anything to do with the battlefield, except it does in fact have a converted mana cost of 3 black. Well, converted mana cost of 3, but mana cost of 3 black mana. Except it doesn't do anything on the battlefield. In the graveyard, however, if Bridge from Below is in your graveyard and a creature you control would go from your battlefield to your graveyard, you get a 2/2 zombie. The downside of it is if it's in your graveyard and a creature your opponent controls would go from their battlefield to their graveyard, a Bridge from Below gets exiled from the graveyard. So Icarid would be a whole hell of a lot better if he was flying, but then he'd be broken, so just some sort of evasion. But at the beginning of your upkeep, if Icarid is in your graveyard, you may sacrifice a non-Icarid black creature to return him to the battlefield. He is not legendary, so you can return all the ones from your graveyard that you have non-Icarid black creatures to exile to return them. Then at your end step, you sacrifice Icarid. which is why casting Dread Return would have been so incredibly easy. So when you have Bridge from below, at least one in your graveyard, in my case, at one point I had 3, every time I pull an Ichorid back, and then I get to swing with him, then on my end step, when I just have to sacrifice him, it's just how the card works, I get 3 2/2 black zombies for every Ichorid I sacrificed. Not to mention throwing Narc Amoebas in front of things so that they get bigger, and yeah, no, this is great. So that is how I almost won this game. I managed to bring back 3 Ichorids, the one upkeep when she had all of her creatures tapped down, plus I had a couple zombies, so yeah, I was able to swing in for like 18. It was great. And then they left and I got new zombies. So yeah, that was fun. Also, Lion's Eye Diamond, I definitely messed that up game 1 when I sacked it for 3 mana to cast something out of my hand, and then I was like, where'd my hand go? Shit. But Lion's Eye Diamond is great for flashing back Faithless Looting. So yeah, all in all, I think I'm getting a handle on how the deck works. I do want to try to record a match with it, and you can all tell me how bad I am at playing it. So I ended up losing to her 0-2 in all 3 formats. What did I play in Modern? I played actually played Ross Miriam's Humans List. Okay, alright, Ross and I were crazy. Thraben Inspector, not so much. Okay, just even as I've run that deck some more, just on other for funsies matches, Thraben Inspector is the first card that gets sided out. Yeah, no, that wasn't great. Phantasmal Image, on the other hand, way better than I thought. Way better than I was giving it credit for. Just having the ability to copy really anything on the battlefield, you know. Was pretty awesome. You know, because sometimes you want it to be another Thalia's Lieutenant. Sometimes you want it to be another Kite Sail freebooter so that you can take your Storm opponent's gifts ungiven. My Storm opponent was not very pleased with that maneuver. Sometimes you want it to be a Mantis Rider. Sometimes you want it to be a Reflector Mage. Options, yo. Options are great. Get the fuck out of my way, yo. Thank you. And then in Standard, Black-White Vampires just failed to perform, like, at all. That was just bad. Now, she was running Red-Green Monsters, which, that deck's actually pretty good. I like the look of that deck. I still don't think the Phoenixes are the greatest card ever. I'm still not willing to pay $16 or $20 or whatever the fuck they're at now. But yeah, Black-White Vampires just completely fell flat on its little face. It was bad. So I will not be brewing that one up in Standard, because not only did it just fail to perform at all, it was not at all fun to play. This week's decks, as voted by my Twitter followers, are Bant Lands in Standard, also known as Bant Approach, in honor of the great Jody motherfucking Keith. That vote ended up tied, but Lands got an automatic vote from me because of Jody Keith. So that's what won that one. In Modern, I'm going to be playing Grixis Delver, Grixis Shadow. Yay. I don't know. Looks like a pretty straightforward deck. Drain the shit out of yourself, play a Death Shadow, kill your opponent. snap bolt some things. And in Legacy, of course, I'm going to be playing lands, which actually legitimately just won the vote by like a lot. If there's any decks you want to see me throw on the poll for my standard Legacy and Modern decks for this X-Mage Leagues, I don't even know how many weeks this thing goes on, like 5 maybe, something like that. So I will be running this poll like 3 more times or so. If there's any decks you want to see me throw on the list to have people vote, please, comment, say, hey, have you thought about running Legacy Jabberwocky? Link to the deck list would also be appreciated, especially in Legacy, just because I know so little about Legacy. So if you call it something not exactly what everybody else calls it, or more specifically, exactly what MTG Goldfish calls it, I'm going to have a hard time finding the list. Like, if you're like, oh, you should run Sun and Moon in Modern. Now, I do know what Sun and Moon is because a friend of mine plays it, but apparently that deck is generally referred to as Red-White Prison. So, if you call it Sun and Moon, and I don't know enough about the format to decipher, like, oh, this must be the deck you're talking about, we're going to have a hard time. So before it even goes on the poll, I'm going to see if I can find a deck list so we don't end up with another manaless dredge problem. But yeah, no, send me things that you want to hear about me playing. I'm not really going to talk about playing humans much because I've played that deck a bunch on X-Mage, or decks similar enough to it, and talked about them a bunch. Black-White Vampires just... it has a similar problem to Black-Red Pirates in that it's not quite mid-range, it's not quite control, it's definitely not aggro. It tries to straddle a line and lacks the resources to be able to do it. It really needs to commit to either a destructive controlling strategy or a mid-range go big strategy. Black-Red Pirates, the problem with that deck is it's trying to be both aggressive and mid-range, and it doesn't have the resources to do it. I'm still digging Boros aggro as far as a deck to play in Standard. That deck looks super fun, and I should have most of the pieces, so need to get me some Path of Metals or Path to Metal or whatever the fuck that card is. And again, the Phoenixes, which I probably just wouldn't even bother with. I'd probably just run more Glory Bringers, honestly. It's not even that I don't think the card's good. I do think it's decent. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's worth this high price tag. Especially, there are just too many things in the format that easily deal with it. There's Exile in the format, in the form of Ixalan's Binding, Cast Out, Thopter Arrest, Vraska's Contempt. I feel like I'm missing one. And Doomfall. That's technically an exile. Huh, look at that. Then there's also so much graveyard hate in the format. There's like the bad Relic of Progenitus. I guess Silent Gravestone wouldn't hit. Well, no. Silent Gravestone, I think, would hit that because it does, in fact, target. I don't know. I have to look into that one. And, of course, Scavenger Grounds, the easiest. I think Crook of Condemnation is the bad Relic of Progenitus. So, there are just so many ways to effectively deal with this, and because Scarab God and Godfarer's Gift are on everybody's radar, the graveyard hate is real. So it's not even like I have to play something specifically to deal with this card. No, it's already in there. That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's awful. I think it's a good card. I just don't think it's fantastic, especially not natively having haste. It only has haste when you return it. That's why I would personally rate Glorybringer above this card. Because your chance of being able to get one swing in is much better with Glorybringer than it is with this one. Not to mention, Glorybringer is outside of Fatal Push range, even with Revolt. The Phoenix is not. Phoenix only costs 4, as far as I'm aware. So, yeah. But I do like the look of this red-white aggro deck. Hopefully I'm going to be able to actually record some matches and get them posted and everything. I think I do still have the video for at least game 1 of the Legacy. I should post that. There's really nothing coherent going on there. But for those of you that wanted to see a goddamn train wreck, it most certainly was. I should be getting my pairings for the X-Mage League for this week on tomorrow or tonight. God, I barely know what day of the week it is. Things have just been fucking awful, honestly. Like, oh, I'm not going to talk about all that. Anyway, so hopefully I'll be able to get those matches in. This week I will not be going to FNM. We're having a going away party for my one colleague that has accepted a job elsewhere and betrayed all of us by, deciding to advance his career outside of this company. Jerk. So, but hopefully we'll get enough to fire Standard Showdown on Sunday again, and then I can talk about that. Tomorrow, probably going to try to talk about the Pro Tour some. I'm sad Lantern Control won from the point that there are going to be a bunch of people now trying to run this deck at events, and it's just going to make coverage awful to watch. Not because the deck itself, but that deck is super difficult to play effectively. But oh, can anybody dirtle with that deck? It's going to be like 50-minute game 1s, matches that end in 1-game draws. Not excited about that. But that's my plan for tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. I am home now. We're also supposed to get a shit ton of snow tomorrow, so I don't know how that's gonna go. But sorry about, missing cast last week. But here we are. As always, if you made it this far with me, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully I'll talk to you all tomorrow.